Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your long-awaited election training tape. I'm Jennifer. I'm the elections administrator for those of you who haven't met me previously. So I'm going to start with your election day procedure guide. Now, I have copies of everything I'm going to go over with today available for you in my office. If you would like for me to mail you a packet, I'll be happy to do so. I will leave the video posted. That way you can watch the video now if you want to, or you can pause the video and come back when you have the paperwork in hand. It is completely your discretion. Just let me know how you want to handle it. But we're going to move on, and we're going to start with Election Day Procedure Guide. Now, it looks like this. Okay. My office number is up at the top. You will have other information in the top of your pizza box with other phone numbers to reach me on election day should you not be able to get through to my office line. The first thing I want to talk about is the voter ID rules. SB 5 is still in effect. Valid ID is still required for voters to come in and vote. There are different forms of identification that you can get in the state of Texas. There is the Texas driver's license, the Texas state identification card, and the Texas election certificate. All three different things, all three come from the DPS office, and all three are acceptable forms of ID. Now, for this election, being that this is 2020, we are very cognizant of the fact that DPS closures have burdened a lot of people within the county of being unable to update their driver's license for their registration. So their voter registration will be correct, but their driver's license may have a different address on it. We are not going to turn these voters away. They have no control over DPS closures. I have been told that there are waiting times all the way into January for some people. So we're going to keep that in mind during this election. Now, if somebody comes in and the situation is just not logical at all and you don't know what to do, then please stop and call my office. But do not send a voter away without talking to me first, or Kristen, or somebody here in my office. We have had a lot of new move-ins for Limestone County in 2020. So, I'm not saying that all of you are going to have a lot of this, but some of you are definitely going to have some. And we are talking driver's license from a different city or a different county that has a different address than what the voter registration shows. We will not punish voters in Limestone County for DPS closures and the inability to get those renewed. So, if you have any question about a voter ID, the voter ID rules are the same. But what I'm specifically talking about is if it's a new voter and they have an old driver's license. Call me, don't send them away. That's the best rule you can ever follow, is call me first, and I will tell you what to do with the situation. All right, voter ID rules continue on page 1 and 2. In the middle of page 2, you see list A. That is the list of acceptable forms of ID. Okay, that's very straightforward for you, very big print. These are what we accept. Now, looking at this list, you see that it talks about a Texas driver's license, a Texas election identification certificate, or a Texas personal ID card issued by DPS. This is where you may have some issue with the people who have moved here, properly registered to vote, but have not been able to change their driver's license yet. So these are going to be the cases where you're going to stop and call me or call Kristen, and we're going to help you with that. But again, I repeat, do not send a voter away without speaking to this office first. All right? Moving on to page 3, we have supporting forms of ID. Supporting forms of ID are for people who do not have a valid photo identification card. Now, with the RIDs as we have done in the past, you still have to have supporting forms of ID. Those forms are listed for you on page 3. These include paycheck stubs, utility bills, a government check, a paycheck, a bank statement. I mean, there's several different things we can go with. But again, I want to reiterate, if they need to do a reasonable impediment declaration and you are not sure if their supporting form of ID is acceptable, then you should stop and call me. and we will discuss each individual voter so we can, do what we can for them. Continue on page 3, you read at the bottom, reasonable impediment declaration. It's all straightforward. If you have any questions, call the office. We're going to go on to page 4. Now, it starts at the top with the declaration of reasonable impediment. And it says you may not question or challenge the voter regarding their lack of or being reasonably unable to obtain these IDs. So that says right there, if they come in and they don't have an ID, you don't get to question or harass or anything like that. You accept their word for what it is, and we move forward. If you need to call me, then of course you stop and call me. Continuing on page 4, we have substantially similar names. Now, this is one part I want everybody to pay attention to. This is something that we miss sometimes. So we have the voter signature pages, right? And that's the legal size sheet. Now, it is still legal size. It is shrunk for this sample, but I wanted you to be able to see on one page what it looks like. So this is the page where you put the labels and each voter signs their name, right? Okay. If they fall under the substantially similar name, say it says Jennifer Renee Southard on one of them and Jennifer Johnson Southard on the other, I'm obviously the same person, but the names are different, right? Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the side of your combination form where the voter signs. You're going to find the column that says that right there. Oh, it's upside down. Similar name affidavit. All you have to do is have the voter initial in that box on the same line that their name is on. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop and call our office. We will walk you through it. Next, we're going to move on to page 6. Up at the top, it reminds you again not to reject or send a voter away for ID purposes without speaking to my office first. And our goal is to get people to vote, not to look for reasons to send them away. We need to be, just please stop and call my office if you have any questions about anything of that nature, and we will walk you through. We'll help you through any of that. So on page 6, opening the voting machines is next. Now I am providing after, I'm sorry, I'm looking for my copy. It has been requested that I hand out the opening the polls checklist and the closing the polls checklist again. So I have once again provided those. You will have them in your paperwork. This is your opening the polls checklist. All right. You're going to go down step by step. It gives you every single step. It tells you what the screen says and exactly what you need to do. You can check mark over to the side, sign at the bottom when you're done, and place your opening the polls checklist into your yellow envelope. We're going to go back to the procedure guide now, move on to page 7. So we're setting up and using the new Express poll. Now all of you are familiar with the Express poll by now. It comes in the black suitcase. Well, in the black suitcase, when you open it up, we have taped for you on the inside these instructions. They're on a bright pink sheet of paper. Oh, let me see if I can get this right. Can you see it all? Yeah. All right. Setting up and using your Express poll. Leave it in there in your suitcase so you know exactly where it's at and you can go to it. But this is how you start your poll book every single day. Or, well, election day, because, it's just one day. That is also on page 7 of your procedure guide. And moving on to qualifying the voters. So we're going to look for voters, and we've talked about this before, so I just kind of want to go over this again. Under qualifying the voters on page 7, we're going to go right on down to number 2 and just kind of get to the gist of it. So I understand a lot of people will stand at the tablet and you try to type in everybody's complete last name, everybody's complete first name. That is absolutely not necessary. My name is Jennifer Southard. So if I came in to vote in the last name, you would put S-O-U, and in the first name you would put J-E-N. Now trust me, it is easier to do it with the first 3 letters than it is to try to type out the whole last name. We have a lot of names in this county, but the spelling is sometimes off. We got Wichkowski, we got Lizinski, we got Southard. So if you use the shortened letters, you're going to have a better result. And the less amount of letters that you use, the less chance there is to be a mistake when you're typing in the name. So there's no misspellings or spaces or anything like that. So again, I urge you to put in the 3 first letters of the last name, the 3 first letters of the first name when you're searching for a voter in the poll book. Okay, the rest of the instructions are written out for you on page 7. All of that information has stayed the same. Now, for those of you who worked the primary election, you're going to be looking for this extra step to choose a party. You don't have to do that this time. This is a general election. So you are going to just look for the voter. You do not have to make a party selection. You will not make a party selection in this election. Now, step by step, you're going to issue ballot. When you print out the label, you're going to have 2 labels. This is the part I would like everybody to pay attention to, please. Print out 2 labels. Okay. First label is going to be put on the combination form for the voter to sign. The second label you're going to give to your election clerk to take along with the PDB, and they will walk the voter to the machine, activate the machine using the information on the label. That said, most of you will have a straight, simple 1 ballot to choose from. Some of you are going to have 2 ballots to choose from. Precinct 206, you're going to have some more than ISD voters in your election, so you need to watch for that on your label. And it'll say 206 General, or it will say 206 General/WISD. If it says General/WISD, then when you pull up your ballot on election day, you are going to select the one that says WISD. Precincts 202, 302, and 401 have the City of Mexia District 2 race on them. But not everybody gets the City of Mexia Council race. So you also are going to look at your labels and make sure to follow what your label says. So if your label says 202 Gen, then when you get to the Ivotronic, to the voting machine itself, you are going to give the voter the 202 Gen. If the label says 202 Gen/CME2, then you are going to give the voter 202 Gen/CME2 on the Ivotronic. Same thing for precinct 401. So please, it's very, very important that you pay attention to these labels and which ballot each voter is supposed to receive. Okay, these are council member seats, these are school board seats. You know, they really need to make sure that the people who are in their district do get the ballot and do get to vote on it. But again, I say it is on the label for you. If you just pay attention to the label, it'll be just fine. No, you do not have to keep separate sheets on anything. You have your 1 signature sheet and you have your activator sheet. Now, once the clerk walks the voter over to the machine and you set up their ballot, I want the clerk to get the voter all the way ready to vote. So you are going to choose which ballot for them. You are going to ask each and every voter, it doesn't matter if you've known them your entire life or if they've known you your entire life. It doesn't matter. Well, none of it matters. I want every single voter to be asked, would you like English or Spanish? Period. Ask every single one of them. And they will tell you English or they will tell you Spanish. But ask each voter. Okay, don't make any assumptions about anyone. Ask the voter, which language would you like, English or Spanish? All right, so we've gone on to that. Installing a new roll of labels. Now this is for the signing labels, the ones that the voters actually sign, that the printout that they sign. So the biggest issue we have with these printers is sometimes it gets sticky and the roller on the inside of the printer will get sticky on it and then start catching and holding paper all through it, and then it becomes a big tangled mess. So I'm going to pause this. Okay, so back to the labels in the machine. So this is replacing the labels. Hold on. Okay, so now we're going to look at installing a new roll of labels in this printer. Okay, I'm going to open it up. Have it sitting there right beside you. Take the roll off. Take off your old, make sure this is empty, 2 sides. Okay, set it back down. This is your new roll. All right, so what you need to do with this roll is take this label off. See where that sticker is? That sticker is what's going to cause you the problem. Now, do you see what I've done there? I've taken it all the way around. I have completely removed the label from here, so that's just paper. Throw away this label, throw away your sticker, and these two. Just trash them. Don't try to keep them, because then you might try to use them. We don't want to do that. All right, so looking at your printer, when you remove one end of the spool, you'll see it has on there the arrows for you. So just like this, just like this. See how the arrow goes? Arrow's pointing at the bottom, right in there, just like that. Put the other side back on. This is how it looks now. All right, this is the bottom. That's the front. You follow me? All right, now, right here in the top, this side, you see what I'm talking about, the difference? Slide it right in there, just like that. Okay? Oh, now, take this end. Remember, there's no label on here, that way there's no sticky, and nothing's going to get caught up on the roller. So we're going to avoid printer jams this way. So slide it in. Close the lid. Hit the blue button. Hit the blue button. There we go. Now, your next one is a full label. There you go. That is how you do it without anything getting jammed up. Now, if you ran out of labels in the middle of processing somebody, they're automatically going to reprint when you close the lid. So when you have the labels in there correctly and you close the lid, everything's fed through, it's going to shoot out the labels that you were missing. Okay, so are we good on replacing the label inside your Dymo printer?
Not regular.
Remember, the biggest trick is to to remove the label all the way down past the sticky part. That way the sticky part doesn't go through the wheels. If the sticky part doesn't go through the wheels, then you're going to prevent any jams. And that's really what we're working toward, is trying to keep these printers from jamming. So we're going to go back to the Election Day Procedure Guide. We're on page 8. And we're going to go down to activating a voter. This is kind of what we touched on a while ago when I said I want the clerk to activate the ballot. I want the clerk to ask each and every voter, would you like English or Spanish? I want the clerk to press the yellow view ballot down at the bottom of the screen. That way the voter is standing there, and the first thing the voter sees is the actual ballot, and all they have to do is start voting at that point. Okay, moving on. We've talked about rolls. We've talked about activating a voter. We're going to go over the pizza box a little bit. Your pizza box contents are listed in your Election Day Procedure Guide. All of your information is there. One of the most important items in this box is your green public count sheet. This is where you're going to get all your counts at the end of the day. This is where you're going to check off that you have checked all the security seals and that they are correct. You're going to take your seals off, your flashcards, at the end of the night, and you're going to put them on the back of this green public count sheet for me. Your statement of compensations are in there. Everybody please sign and fill out your information so we can, make sure that you get paid. their primary party certificates will be included. You can use those for proof of voting. For people who need them for school, or people that just want them, they can have them too. You fill it out, stamp it, vote it, and give it to them. The only difference is you're not going to put a party on there. This is not a party election. You're just going to mark out party, and you're going to write general on that line. We provide pre-printed labels for you to put on your paperwork coming back to us. Statement of residence cards are going to be in there too. Your statement of residence cards are what you're going to use for any voter that comes up in the tablet that says this voter's on suspense. All that means is we need an address update on them. Sign them up, run them through, let them vote, have them do a statement of residence card before they leave the voting area. Okay, back to where I was. So we've done statement of residence cards, we've talked about the pre-printed labels, the statement of compensation forms, green public count sheet. Everything is listed for you in your election day procedure guide. So just turn to it, and if you don't see what you're looking for, call me and I'll be happy to answer for you. So we're going to go on down to page 10, and we're looking at notices to be posted packet. This is going to be every notice that you have to put up. These are notices that are required by the state. And there's a lot of them. So just understand that we're not trying to make this harder for you. This is just what we have, and we need to work with what we have the best way that we can do it. So be sure to post all of your notices. One thing that is very important to be put out for election day is the distance markers. Now, distance markers need to go outside 100 feet from the entrance. Some places will have more than one distance markers. Most places are only going to have one single distance marker. I'm not asking you to get your measuring tape out. I'm asking you to take 100 steps and put it out. Okay? But it's very, very important that those signs are put out. Now, we're going to flip on over to page 11. This is the provisional ballot process. I'm not going to read this to you because all of you know how to read. Most of you have done the provisional ballot before. We will send you the pack. We will send you the blank ballots to go with the provisionals. Anytime you have a question on whether somebody should do a provisional, you should call my office and talk to us first. And we will then advise you on whether to offer them a provisional ballot. It just depends on what their situation is. I mean, sometimes there are people who are accidentally omitted off the list. Those people actually get to vote on the machine. They're put on the omissions list. So that's why when we say stop and call our office for verification, then stop and call our office for verification. Sometimes we can help save you a little time, save you a couple of steps. But provisional ballot process, page 11, continues on to page 12. Now, down at the bottom of page 12, we have cancel for the voter who walked away. Unfortunately, this happens from time to time, especially if we don't catch the voter before they get out the door. It's step-by-step instructions. You can use any of the PEBs. It does not have to be a master. Step-by-step, 1, 2, 3, 4. The instructions are listed here for you, starting on page 12. Now we're going to go on to page 13. I'm just closing the polls at 7 a.m. Your official time is your express poll. So the tablet that you use to look up the voters, that's going to have your official time on it. So that's the time that you open, that's the time that you close. Be sure to pay attention to that time, because that's the one you're going to use. Any voter that is in line to vote at 7 p.m. gets to vote. Even if your line is all the way out the door, they are still in line at 7, so they do still get to vote. You may have to give a piece of paper to the last person at 7 o'clock, write last voter on it and hand it to them and ask them to please hold on to it. Or have somebody outside kind of watching the line. Now, our lines in Limestone County don't typically get that long, but there's a first time for everything. And let's face it, this is 2020, so this will be the year that it happens. So just keep that in mind. If they're in line by 7, they do get to vote. Now, what happens is when you go activate a voter on the voting machine at 7 p.m., once the machine says 7 p.m., you'll notice that the ballot doesn't come up. What it says is close poll menu. Yeah, close the polls menu. So you have a voter, they were in line by 7, you printed their label, had them sign, you walked them to the machine, you're activating their ballot. Close option menu comes up when you insert the PEV. All you have to do is hit exit menu and then continue activating the ballot for the voter and then let the voter vote. Step away and let them vote. On page 13, we also have on closing the voting machines. So also back by popular demand is the close the polls checklist. And is all this in? Yeah, okay. So this is the title. That's what it looks like. It's just like the name of the polls checklist. You're going to go step by step, check off what you do, and make sure that you remove your flashcards. Make sure that you've notated your serial numbers on your public count sheet. Make sure that your flashcards and your PEVs are all in your blue bag. I do need all of that information back on election night, especially this election. Okay, so while you're closing the machines, just follow the instructions. They're on there step by step for you. When you're done, you want to pull the flashcards, you want to pull the PEVs, make sure they go back in the bag and come back to me for that night. At the bottom of page 13, you'll see where it starts talking about items to be returned in the blue transfer case, items to be returned in the yellow envelope, and items to be returned in the gray envelope. The next section is that central count. This is just instructions for when you come back to the courthouse that night. And then below that, you'll see miscellaneous provisions. These are things that need to be done. Now, I want to go over the miscellaneous provisions with you very carefully, because these are some things that we have run into and they kind of tend to get looked over from election to election. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen this time. The first provision is the statement of residence card. And please make sure that the voter completes the date of birth, name, of course, residence address, and they have to sign. If the voter does not sign, there's not a lot I can do with the statement of residence card. So please make sure that all of this information is done. The second thing is for name badges on all workers. All election clerks have to have on a name badge. Poll watchers are something completely different. They are not election clerks. You are election clerks. You are required to have on a name badge. We send out name badge cases and cards for you to write your name on. Please make sure that you do so and that you wear it all day. Also, the third thing under miscellaneous is that I'm reminding everybody to return all the paperwork to my office. Your signature sheets, your activator sheets, any of the tapes that you print, any totals report, your zero tape, your totals tape, all of that needs to come back to my office. Now, election judges can ask for copies of the activator sheets or the combination forms, and you can do that at Central Count. When you come here, if you would like a copy of this information, you are the election judge for your precinct, then we can provide that for you. You just need to let us know. But otherwise, please don't hold on to any of the paperwork. Send it all back to me and I can get you whatever you need. The last one is, and this is a biggie because, we've had a state investigator a couple of times now. And the biggest thing that the state investigator has run into is that every voter isn't being asked, have you moved? Now, this can be asked several different ways. You can ask straight up, have you moved? What I usually say to people is, do you still live on Ellis Street in Thornton? Do you still live on Yeager Street in Grosse Bay? Do you still live on Ross Street in Mejia? And you see the pattern here, kind of verify that they do still live at the address that is on file for their voter registration. And that is what we're looking for. That's why you're asking each voter these questions. And it's not necessarily that they moved, we just need to know that we have the correct address on file. So be sure to ask every voter. But some derivative of have you moved? Have you moved? Do you still live on Ellis Street? Do you live on FM 1246? Are you still on LCR 842? However you decide to phrase the question, it has to be asked to each and every voter. So I've gone through the entire election day procedure. I understand that I went through it fast. Of course, you can call me for any questions. You'll have all the paperwork. Again, I can mail you a packet. You're welcome to come pick up a packet. We'll have them ready for you. So just to go over a few more things for you. We are looking at having poll watchers during this election, probably at most of our precincts. So you have a poll watcher cheat sheet provided, and we send it in to all of you. And the back of it gives you an example of the paperwork that has to be filled out. The first part is filled out by the candidate or the party that appoints them to work. The second part is completed at the poll on election day with the presiding judge. Now, poll watchers have certain rules, and all of that is written on here. So you need to read that and be familiar with those rules. Poll watchers are also required to wear name tags. Their name tags look like this, and they would have their name, written right above it, and they have to wear it all day while they are working as a poll watcher. You can also go to your election judge's handbook that is provided by the Secretary of State. We also provide a copy of that. It goes in your pizza box. You'll have it with you all day. And that is on page 9 of the judge's handbook, and it gives you more in-depth information about the poll watchers and what they are supposed to do, what they are not supposed to do. And of course, again, call our office if you need anything at all. We'll be more than happy to help you with that. Now, a couple of little side things. So this is normally legal size, okay? I have it shrunk so you can all see it and it can all stay in your paperwork. Combination form, that's what you're looking for. It says it right up there at the top, combination form. Combination form is where you put the voter's label and the voter signs. The other page is the activator sheet, and it is a letter size sheet. It looks like this, and that is where the activator label goes. Now this is for the election clerk who goes and starts the ballot on the machine for the voter, and when you're done with that, you bring it back, the label itself. The voter does not get the label. I repeat, the voter does not get the label. The label goes on the activator sheet, and then whoever activated that voter on the machine needs to initial that label. Okay, you will also receive in your packets the new passwords for this election. They look like this. I don't know why I just showed that on, but you have them in there. So be sure that you have them handy in case you need them. Directions to delete or change the voter on the tablet are also provided step by step. Of course, it goes back to call us if you need us for anything. We will help you through all of it. Steps to unissue a voter credit. Now, you'll notice it says these are not to switch a voter party. This is not a partisan election. It is a general election, so you're not going to have to worry about switching parties anyway. But say you have a Jim Johnson and a Jim Johnson Jr., but you accidentally printed Junior's label, you meant to print Dad's label. You're going to go through and unissue Juniors and reissue Seniors. That's the kind of example for what this would be for. You're taking the credit off of the incorrect person and giving it to the correct person. Again, keep these instructions handy, close to you. Kristen gives you a folder. It's your quick guide. And the reason why we want you to keep that on the table beside you is because this is the information. If something happens and you call us, we're going to tell you, go get that folder and go to this page. We'll tell you exactly what page to go to. But if you keep that information right there handy so you know exactly where it's at, it speeds along the process for all of us. Hi. Okay, so now just a few odds and ends of things that have come up this year. The first thing is the notice for elimination of straight party ballot. You will be provided this notice that you will need to hang up in your polling place. The reason why I'm telling you this ahead of time is so you know and you can explain to the voters in case they ask. The straight party option was eliminated in the Texas legislation in 2019. It was effective September 1st of 2020. So now the ballot no longer has the option to go in and pick a single party. The voters can still vote for one particular party if they want to. Each candidate on the ballot has their party listed out beside them. The difference is that they just have to go in and hit the names individually of the people that they want to vote for. So again, this is no more straight. It's the elimination of straight party voting. That option is no longer on the ballot. They can still vote a single party if they like to. They just have to go through and choose each candidate. All right, so well, I'm asking about questions for a notice of straight party or elimination of straight party voting. So if you have any questions, feel free to call my office and I can discuss it with you a little more. Okay, so now the big question on everybody's minds, what are we doing about COVID? So we have worked up a procedure guide, and it looks like this. Okay. Now it is very important that each clerk read this advisory. We really want to do what's best for the public. We want to give our best at sanitation and disinfecting the polling place. So for the preparation of the polling place, we need to make sure the voting machines are placed no less than 6 feet apart. We are providing pink duct tape, bright pink duct tape, for you to mark on your floor for the 6 feet spacing. We are providing notices reminding people to social distance. We are providing posters for you to place at the door of the polling place, which is, again, just more reminders about staying safe in the polling place. So what I have you doing is the election workers need to use the provided disposable alcohol wipes to clean your equipment. We are sending extra ink pens. So every time a voter uses a pen, you need to rotate them out, sanitize each pen after use. We are sending extra styluses for the voting machines, and every stylus needs to be disinfected after use. You should also disinfect each machine after use. Use the alcohol wipes, go to the machine, wipe down the bottom, wipe down the screen, and wipe down the vote button at the top. I've had some people wait till everybody votes and then goes and wipes it down. I have also had workers during early voting who will take an alcohol wipe with them, when they go to set up a voter. So the voter actually sees the clerk wipe the machine down and then start their ballot. So the voter can actually see that the machine is disinfected before they get to it. I think that's going to be my preference, is that you do it in front of the voter. The way the voter sees exactly what you're doing, they know that we are taking precautions to keep the equipment disinfected and sanitized. Everything is written down for you in this procedure guide. You need to encourage social distancing. You need to make use of the hand sanitizer we're providing. You need to go through the room every once in a while and spray the Lysol over the table and over the chairs. We can't do every little bitty thing, but we can do our absolute best. And that's what I'm asking of you, is to do your best to make sure that the voting equipment stays disinfected and sanitized. I'm depending on each of you to make sure this is done. Now, a couple of things that we need to talk about, and we'll get down on this paper. Look down at the very bottom. This is where we're getting to. Encourage social distancing. Voters may wear Voters may wear a mask within the polling place, but they are not required to. Texas law does not allow us to require a voter to wear a mask in the polling place. Simply put, the governor's advisory over the mask mandate last spring, voting was specifically exempted from that mask mandate. So again, I repeat, you cannot require a voter to wear a mask. You can encourage it. We will try to offer some spare paper mask for you in case there's people that come in that do want one and just don't have one. But if you offer them a mask and they say no thank you, drop it, because you cannot make them do it. As far as the clerks go, again, the same kind of situation. I cannot require you to wear a mask. I strongly encourage you to wear a mask. We are sending masks and face shields for the clerks. I understand that wearing a mask all day can be burdensome. The face shields work a little bit different. My early voting clerks tend to like the shields. Most of them are using the shields. I have a few using the mask still. I do ask that as election clerks that you do wear the mask or the shield, one or the other, when there are voters in the polling place. A voter may ask to be assisted by a person wearing a mask. If the voter asks and says, I'd really rather have somebody set up my machine that is wearing a mask, then I'm asking you to do as the voter requested. Be respectful of this wish and be considerate to them when they ask this. So again, voters may request to be assisted or checked in by an election clerk who is wearing a mask. Please be considerate of this request and respect the wishes of the voter. Now, under that same paragraph, you'll see number 4 is highlighted in yellow. It says voters are required to use photo ID. So we kind of discussed this a little bit when the video first started, but it's saying the same thing I was saying to you a while ago. We have to be cognizant of the DPS closures. So there were people all over the state of Texas who were unable to get their license updated because they weren't able to do it online. They have to go in person. And in order to go in person, they have to set an appointment. And I've had people come in and tell me their appointments are as far out as January. So just keep that in mind during this election. We're not looking for reasons to turn people away. If you have a question about their ID, if there's something about it that's bothering you, then stop and call my office, but don't send the voter away. Please do not send the voter away without speaking to my office first. It goes a little further, continuing, rotate pins used for the signatures, disinfect each pin with alcohol wipe after voter use, rotate voting machine styluses, disinfect each stylus with an alcohol wipe after use, rotate the use of voting machines and disinfect each voting machine after use. Use disinfectant spray at the sign-in table anytime you have a cluster of voters. Practice diligence in keeping the voters 6 feet apart. And this one may be hard for some of the bigger precincts. Some of the smaller precincts, probably not too much of an issue. But let's try to keep less than 10 people in the polling place at one time. And that includes workers. So if you have 4 workers, let's try to keep it at 6 voters. I know it's not always completely possible. We're not going to send voters away. We're not going to make them wait out in the heat or the cold or the rain or whatever the weather may be doing that day. Let's just try, and that's what I'm asking for everybody is to give me your best to try to follow these guidelines as far as the disinfecting and sanitation goes. Now, attached to the back of that procedure, there is the actual advisory from the Secretary of State's office for your convenience, and there's more information in there for you. I'm going to pause this for a second so I can see what I need to remember. Okay, one more thing I want to talk to everybody about is request to cancel an application for ballot by mail. We have sent out over 900 ballot by mails for this election. We have, during early voting, received a lot of cancellations. So I need you to be aware that this is a possibility that it will happen on election day. We're going to send you extra applications. But there are certain procedures to follow. Okay, I'm back. So I was talking about request to cancel application for ballot by mail. This is what the form looks like. So on election day, when this happens and you have somebody come in and they want to cancel their ballot by mail, they can, but election day, there's a few added circumstances. You'll notice on your instructions, it tells you to stop and call Jennifer before you do so. The reason being is that when they vote by mail, it goes to the ballot board. And if their ballot has already been received by this office and gone to the ballot board for review, then they're considered to have already been voted, and we can't change that. So this only... Okay, sorry about the interruption. So when somebody comes in and wants to request their ballot by mail in order to vote in person on election day, the first thing you need to do is call my office and verify where their ballot is. It's at that point that I can tell you what their options are. If they have their ballot in hand, the option's pretty simple, but call me anyway. You are going to have extras of these to fill out. So make sure that you fill out and have the voter sign one of these. Every voter that comes in and wants to cancel an application for ballot by mail. Again, request to cancel application for ballot by mail. Make sure they sign one of these. Make sure that you call and verify with me before proceeding to let them vote on the machine. And as usual, call our office if you have any questions about that procedure. It's actually very easy. The instructions are, provided for you in your folder. The applications will be there for you. You'll return them to me in the same envelope that they came in. You'll return any ballots to me in that same envelope. But the most important thing is to call and verify with me before proceeding to do that. I think that's all that I have for today. I'm sure I missed something, and I'm sure everybody has questions, about little things. So, feel free to call our office. We'll do our best to talk you through it, to, explain to you ahead of time how the procedure works. And of course, anybody that wants to have a procedure guide and the example pages mailed to you in advance of the election, you call my office, give your name and address, and we'll get that mailed out to you. Of course, I'll have them here for pickup too, if that would be your preference. But for now, this is Jennifer, and look forward to hearing from you.